Oh, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. Namaste. I'm early today. And
I have a funny feeling the Zoom servers might take a little bit of time to hook the connection together, but with you already there, it seems like as soon as I pushed the button, we
yeah.
were already connected. So it's cool.
So I already read chapter 9 just like a minute ago because I was just here and I recorded it and uploaded it and everything. And I thought I had a funny idea that I thought it would be good. It would like throw you off with your plan if you have any plan. It would like
It
throw,
totally did.
yeah, and I thought that was a good idea. Because then we can just be like more spontaneous and free and we don't know what's gonna happen. Oh, like
Well, what came to mind as I was reading last night is he's evoking. Yeah. And I was just trying to read to find something to highlight for you. And I got to verse 15, and I just got this huge grin, and I read that verse over and over. And then 16, 17, 18, 19, and it really got that Ribhu was trying to evoke. I mean, he's really trying to bring something forward, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Can I read 15 to you and we see where it goes?
okay, sure.
Okay. You know, I can,
You
before I
want to
do
go
that,
with
I
your
can,
plan, is
I'll
it?
tell you what, let me read that one. Well, the
What
first
happens
thing I
if I
want
say
to do,
no?
if you say no, or if you say yes, I still need to take my sweatshirt off. I'm
Okay,
already
go
getting,
for
I'm
it.
already getting too hot. Okay, so give me a second.
I must be in a challenging mood today.
Okay.
When your earphones were off, I said I must be in a challenging mood today.
Okay, so let's take the plan and throw it away.
Good.
What is your pleasure?
It's nice to be here without a plan. We are here with the wisdom of Ribhu. I'd like to go straight into chapter 10 because I already read chapter 9, like literally like 10 minutes ago. And I really like the idea of throwing you off your plan because I never have a plan and you like seem to always have a plan, which I really appreciate, I have to say. Like I do really appreciate it and I think it's wonderful and I think it would be great if I could be more like that too. But then just when I had the idea that, oh, I wonder what will happen if I just like say no, we're not gonna do the plan. So I'd be happy to go and not doing your plan if you're okay with it.
I look forward to watching and listening to the recording of Amba doing chapter 9. I think
Okay.
that'll be really, really, really fantastic over the weekend.
But if you really want to, we can look at like verse 15 if you want, because I don't want to challenge you too much or upset you or anything.
No. I like to have the rug pulled. There's
No.
nothing like flipping chaotically into space with no control whatsoever.
And then like chapter 10 is called, or the title of it is called All is of the Nature of Self. So that's like all of this little game that we're playing. It's all of the nature of self. Hmm. It's almost like it doesn't really matter what chapter you read. or what verse you read, because it's really all the same. Like I haven't found anything different in here, like from one verse to another verse to another verse. Like sometimes you might feel, I don't know, it might vary slightly in your response to it or something. But like it's literally just saying the same thing over and over again. And you can tell me if you find something different, but what it's saying to me over and over again is just like literally like none of this exists. No, not none of this exists, but none of our ideas exist, and there's nothing different or apart, and all is Brahman alone. And be sure of this. That's all I'm saying over and over and over. Doesn't exist, doesn't exist, doesn't exist. That doesn't exist, doesn't exist, doesn't exist. I just laugh a lot because like I make myself laugh. My expression sometimes like makes me laugh. Ah. Shall I start to read a little bit?
Your laughter draws me right in and makes me want to hear more.
Maybe I'll read a verse or two and then we'll see if that comes up, and then you could read a verse or two and we'll see if that comes up, like that. Like if we want to say anything about it, will we do like that?
Beautiful.
Okay. I'll pass the baton. Isn't that what they say? Like you do something and then you pass the baton and the other person does it.
Yeah, I know the phrase.
Mm-hmm. Hear this exposition about the greatness of the self, that is peaceful and the rare quintessence. The self, which is not insentient, which is one, and which is existence, consciousness, bliss, is all pervasive. That self is itself. There is nothing apart from the self. The pot and the cloth and others that are seen as manifold are all of the nature of the self. The self is of the nature that pervades all the world. The self is of the nature that transcends the world. The self is of the nature of all. The self is of the nature beyond all. The self is of the nature that is peaceful. The self is of the nature of existence, consciousness, bliss. There is nothing apart from the peerless self. All ever is of the nature of self. Get it? Do you have any arguments with that? I must be in a very funny mood today. I don't.
Well, your good cheer is certainly infectious. But there's very little resistance here or desire to put up any, that's for sure. Just want to have this wave wash over me.
Okay, so if you'd like to read, if you don't.
The self is of the nature dear to all. The self is of the nature of the imperishable. The self is of the abode of bliss. The self is greater than the greatest. The self is of the nature devoid of the six changes: birth, existence, growth, disease, decay, and death. The self is of the nature of the pure and unsullied. There is nothing apart from the self, the mass of bliss. All objects are of the nature of the self. So, to your point about that doesn't exist, that doesn't exist, that doesn't exist, it's almost like the same repetitive exercise could say that's the self, that's the self, that's the self, that's the self.
Yeah, perfect.
So just scanning the body here. It's good to feel the feet on the ground.
You standing?
Yeah, stand-up desk. The self is of the nature that has no differences of the individual jiva and the supreme. The self is of the nature devoid of the mind and such. The self is of the nature that is devoid of the non-self. The self is of the nature that is the highest non-duality. The self is of the nature of pure consciousness. The self is of a homogeneous nature. There's nothing apart from the self, the sacred. All that is seen is of the nature of the self. Oh, it's so nicely quiet. For the last few weeks in meditation, there's just been all this chattering. And there's sometimes, fighting, like that's got to stop. But other times, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Just noticing, oh, that's what's on there.
So now I don't want to suggest that you read, but we're even. It's 2 and 2.
It's like you can't even add anything. There's nothing like that you could add to this. Like it's just perfect as it is. It's like only the thoughts can give up some argument. Oh, so like that. I like this one. And that's like the nature of mind to do that. You could say. And I don't feel like any one or any well yeah or anything in the world like a worldly thing. Let's say that's not like just grace can make us not give importance to the mind. It's like
Mm.
it's like um, of course it's by grace and it's grace and life doing it inside us, but it's almost like experientially it feels like we have to choose it over and over again to just like leave the mind alone, like whatever it questions it throws up. But if they feel real, I suppose it's good to explore them a bit. But um, basically we'll never find anything real in the mind or in the world of mind and differences. Okay. The self is of the nature of non-duality and duality. The self is also of the nature that cannot be described in this manner. The self is also of the nature of release and bondage. The self is of the nature that has no words like liberation. The self is of the nature devoid of all these. The self is of the nature of the one undivided fullness. Truly, there is nothing apart from the self. At all times, all things are of the nature of the self. The self is of the nature without a trace of sankalpa. Is sankalpa concept?
Um,
I think it's a word for
I,
concept. Sometimes it has it in brackets, but this time it's not.
Sankalpa goes with Vikalpa. One is doubt, and the other is ideas or concepts, I think.
The self is of the nature of permanent bliss. The self is of the nature without bondage. The self is of the nature of the Supreme God. The self is of the nature that has no obscuring blemish. The self is of the nature that is changeless, partless. There is nothing apart from the exalted self. The enjoyable object and the enjoyment are of the nature of the self.
Now I'm standing at the deli counter in the shop, right? I'll have some unending
Yeah.
bliss, please. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Mm.
Hmm. That's why it's also like funny. It's like everything is the self. So you're like the self at the deli counter and the deli, which is also the self, and saying, I want the self. It's like everything is the self. And it's like it's playing as if it's like different. Imagine if we used only the word self, like in a deli counter. Oh, I'd like the self and the self and oh hello self. Because that's really what's actually happening. You know, it's like everything is just like the same thing, but it's like our mind has interpreted it in to make it all different and everything, but really everything is just the same.
I feel little man tears starting to well up here. Yeah, it's cool.
Mhm.
I've missed you, self.
Yeah.
Try not to breathe into the sky.
Like life is actually like just really hilarious in all that it's mysterious as well, but it's very funny, like hilarious to way plays. Even the things we can think, like even I've missed you, you know, like we can think things like that and like feel things like that, and like it's just really funny. Like, cause like where could you go? I know, it's just so funny. You know, like I was feeling yesterday. I was feeling like, oh yeah, I was thinking about my teacher and auntie. I was thinking, oh yeah, I'd like to just like sit with him and like hold his hand. Like I remember sometimes when we used to be there, I would just hold his hand for like an hour or something. He might be just talking and sitting there and we'd just be like holding hands. I kind of felt
Oh,
like felt like oh that'd be so nice. But then it just kind of felt like, but in that feeling, like I feel like I am holding his hand. You know, like and like the feeling of holding his hand is like that's here now. And like I feel like I'm not gonna get something else by like seeing an image of a body or something. Like he's totally here, and then just like some of those kind of thoughts can lead to it. Just kind of led to this kind of contemplation, and then I just kind of felt like he's always been here with me, even before I knew about the body of Ananta and the story of Ananta. Like I still feel like he was with me, and then I feel like I'll just like always be with him. Is that and yeah. and like that time and space don't have any meaning. Like it doesn't matter that he's like in the story, you know, the story says he's in India, like 5,000 miles away, and it's been a certain amount of time since I've seen him. But actually, in reality, like, and feeling wise, like you don't really feel like really, you just like experientially, you just feel like nothing is happening really at all. Like you just feel love, just feel love and peace. Maybe sometimes you might feel something else, but like it literally doesn't matter. Like time and space doesn't have any meaning unless we give it. And
Mm.
I guess time and space is another word for everything. Because what is this whole world? This whole world is like time and space, isn't it? So it really doesn't have any meaning unless we choose to give it meaning. And then I felt like, okay, well, if it has any meaning, it's just to love you
Mhm.
or him, or and that's everything, you know. Like so, I don't know. Somehow I feel kind of I'm a little bit of a kind of lovey kind of person. Like my character is kind of lovey. Like I like to love people and things, and I like the feeling of love. I don't know. That was not in such a way that I need to chase love or anything, but somehow I don't know. My character is a bit lovey. Like even when I was a kid, like I liked watching the Care Bears, things like that. Don't know, you know the Care Bear. But like I would still probably like the Care Bears if it came on the TV. My character would be like, "Oh, it's the Care Bears." Heart-shaped things and all that kind of thing. So that's just like a meaning, I suppose, that like I'm projecting onto life, but like it doesn't even really, doesn't really have that. But kind of does. It kind of does because the self does love itself. But it kind of even feels false, like because even the idea of love is like it's still an idea. It sounds like it can sound like it's so true or something, but actually it's not. It's actually not even true. Like no, nothing is true. Isn't that amazing? I'm like I totally feel like I'm talking to myself right now. But, but it is amazing. Like actually nothing is true. Like even to say like everything is bliss, everything is Brahman, everything is love. Like even that's not true really, because it just sounds so funny to say it. Like it can't really be true because it's just not true. Because it's an idea as well, and the words don't reach to the truth, or I suppose they're a kind of a pale. Sometimes they can be a pale reflection or something. But you can feel it, you know, when you feel like if you're in a kind of a blissful feeling or like a lovely feeling, it kind of can feel so true, you know, like yes, bliss. And I feel totally like connected and like alive. Like, and of course, like all of that, it is a reflection of the truth. I suppose it's just when we get into like describing, when you start like describing all of the feelings, it's not like that because nothing is false in a way. Like all of our feelings are the self. Like that's what it says. And everything that happens is like self. Yeah, I'm just kind of contemplating it.
From this side, if I can use your accent a little bit, it seems most helpful to shut up.
Do I talk like that? Mhm, mhm, mhm,
We on verse 7.
mhm.
The self is of the nature of the ancient and imperishable. The self is of the nature of a mass of existence, consciousness, bliss. The self is of the nature that cannot be comprehended. The self is of the nature that is deathless. The self is of the nature of all that is differenceless. The self is of the nature that transcends proof. There is nothing apart from the originless self. All that is seen as being part. Let me try that again. All that is seen as being a part is of the nature of the self. I think Amba's laughter divides the differences somehow. Not sorry. I said it wrong. Let me try again. I'll come in again. Here we go. Wait.
Take two.
I think. I think Amba's laughter removes, it kind of washes away the perception of differences.
I don't know who said it. Someone said it. I think maybe it was like Ananda Mayima. Do you know her?
I've heard the name, but maybe I've not seen.
Okay. I think she said, like, what could have been someone. When we laugh, we can't think. And I have really found it to be true as well, because I used to run laughter yoga workshops, and that's what I really liked about it, because like I really felt like when you're laughing, you just it really makes you really present, and like you're really being like, so even before I was in satsang or anything like that, I just really noticed like when you're laughing, you just really get present. You really can't think when you're laughing. So not just Amba's laughing, but anyone's laughing. Anyone's laughter.
To your earlier point, thoughts of Amba over the last few weeks have, there's sort of been this idea of an embrace, but then the image dissolves and what's left is right here and now. Quite beautiful. Yeah, just to echo holding Ananta's hand, as beautiful as that is, you've really sort of taken it home.
I was really feeling as well, it was, you might know that it was Papa G's birthday during the week,
recently or?
Yeah, on Tuesday.
Okay, no, I didn't know.
They use the word Jayanti in India. I suppose it's like, it just means it's his birthday celebration. And Muji wrote a message. I can't remember now the exact words, but he said that really we're all Papa G's children. And somehow I thought of you as well, because I remember you said that Hanuman was with Papa G, and like that really we all come from the same lineage. Yeah. So somehow I thought of that, and we're all Papa G's children.
For sure.
I just watched the video of his stuff because it popped up on my YouTube, and it was like, I just find it. Have you ever watched Papa G videos?
And what a delight! Yeah.
Like many of the videos that I watched, he's just kind of laughing, and I feel like he's such a little kid. It's great. And he read out a letter. So I think how it is, Muji said before, that people who were in the room, they used to write letters, and then maybe they'd put them in a box or something, and he'd pick up a letter and read it, and then that person would come. So we read a letter, and it was just a letter. It said, like, I really want to be free, and I'm not going home until I'm free. And Papa, can you teach me? Like, my mind won't stop thinking. I've tried, and can you teach me to be free? And then I want to sing a song for you. He said, yeah. Then he's like, okay, who's this? No name. And then this little boy came up. I'd say he must have been about 9. So he was like, wow, that's a surprise. It was just like so joyful. Like everyone was so full of joy. He's like, what could you be thinking about? I don't think he would have a girlfriend. Do you have a girlfriend? He's like, no, he's too young for like girls even. He's literally 9. And he's like, you don't go to school. He's like, oh, I do go to school. He's like, well, you're not in school now, so like you're here. He's like, so you're not thinking about school. So what are you thinking about? He's like, everything else. Thinking about everything else. And Papa G is just laughing. And it's really hard to take. Like you can't imagine like a 9-year-old has any problems with thinking or anything. And like he couldn't even think of anything he was thinking about. He's just like, just everything, thinking about everything. But the video was just so joyful. You know, like pretty much every Papa G video I've ever watched. Just like giggling and laughing. I know what I'm saying. It's like, have you ever heard that expression? I don't know if it's an Irish expression or not, but it's we're all cut from the same cloth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like the same thing. So even like I say, we're all Papa G's children. But then you know, like Papa G is the child of Ramana. Ramana is the child of Arunachala. And what is Arunachala but Shiva self? And what did everybody realize? What did Ramana realize? That he is Arunachala. What did Papaji realize? That he's like, and everyone, like, I'm not apart from my master. I'm like one in the same. So, in the same way, we're like one. We're one with Papaji, or we're the self. The same as what, like, the song of Ribhu said. It's like the self is all there is. That's just what we don't even really, we use the word that we realize, you know, like we realize it or we recognize it, but really we just stop indulging in false ideas. And we find our joy there. That's where joy is. And it's not like it never left us. Like joy is here. It never left us. So I guess you could say we rediscover our joy just because we kind of, in a way, looked away. And it's kind of funny even to say it because, like, in a way, like there's nowhere else to look. So we didn't even look away because there's nowhere to look. But we kind of it's, I guess, like that's why they use the word like waking up and falling asleep, because we kind of closed our eyes to the truth and started to dream and like started to believe ourselves to be an idea. And then we just stopped. We just stopped believing that we're an idea, and then our eyes open again. Nice. You don't know anything. You don't have to know anything. There's literally nothing to know. Well, you don't know anything because there isn't anything to know.
So you don't want to read chapter 9, is that correct?
You reminded me of Papa D right now.
So all bald men look alike? Is that where you're coming from?
Yeah, that's totally. I don't know what the word is. Not like racist, but some kind of word like.
You're baldest.
What?
You're
Bald?
baldest.
Yeah. Shall I read the rest?
Sure.
The self is clearly of the nature of the fourth state. The self is of the nature that scorches duality. The self is of the nature of the supreme Brahman. The self is of the nature of the direct knowledge. The self is of the nature without a trace of unreality. The self is of the nature devoid of anything apart. There is nothing apart from the self that is the Brahman. Whatever is seen as apart is also of the nature of the self. Sorry, that just like somehow reminded me of, I really probably shouldn't say this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Just because they use the word the Brahman, there is nothing apart from the self that is the Brahman. It reminded me of like the Batman. I've been watching Batman movies and they keep saying like the Batman. So like the Brahman, because they usually don't say the Brahman. Do they?
No.
The self that is the Brahman. There's nothing apart from the self that is the Brahman. I don't really understand that sentence. I don't know if it's an error or with the
No, I
word
don't think
the.
so. It's the makes an object. If you say the, it becomes a separate, distinct object.
Oh, there is
Yeah.
nothing apart from the self that is the Brahman. Oh, why I really don't understand.
The is that there's nothing apart from the self that can be held as a distinct, separate, object.
Yeah.
The pen, the
There's nothing
Brahman.
apart from the self that is the Brahman. Oh, okay. There's nothing apart from the self that is. Oh, okay. So it's saying, does it mean that there's not just one thing that is apart? It's
There
kind of,
isn't. There is not.
there's
No.
nothing. Oh, okay. there's, not- there's nothing different. There's nothing apart from the self that is the It's just, is that just what it means? Like there's not like one object that is
Right.
apart. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, my mind sometimes doing that. I can't. Okay. The self is of the nature that has none of the four means of achievement. The self is of the nature without knowledge, the end to be achieved. The self is of the nature without ignorance, the impediment. The self is of the nature without the impact of any of these. Man of great tapas, intense spiritual practice, austerity. The self is of the nature that is extremely pure. The self is of the nature that has no pride or sense of dishonor. There is nothing apart from the self, the mass of knowledge. All that is experienced by the senses is of the nature of the self.
Hmm.
Well, it's not really possible to have any kind of problem. Yeah. How could you have any problem?
Without making one.
Yeah, without like imagining one and making something different. That's exactly what you have to do. It's like there isn't inherently a problem. So it's just like that's what it's like. How do you get a problem? But first of all, you have to make. Okay, so this says all is of the nature of self. So first of all, the first thing you have to do is make something apart from the self, and then that's all you need. Once you have that, then you could have a problem with the self. You could be apart from the self, and then you could have a problem with the self. You might have an argument with the self. You might not agree with the self, or yeah, you basically have to have some kind of differentiation. And then you can have a problem. Other than that, you can't have any problem. To imagine.
Mm.
I think I might have told you this before, but somehow it's coming to me now. Did I tell you I did a course in miracles? You know a course in miracles?
Yeah, I know it, but I haven't done it, and I don't think you've told me before.
Okay, so like I spent like a year doing a course in miracles. You do like one lesson every day, and there's a text, and there's all these lessons. So then I was finished it. Maybe it was like a month or two after I finished it, and then I was just walking down the street, minding my own business, and then this line popped in my head out of Course in Miracles. It said, "You're far too tolerant of mind wanderings,"
Oh.
and something was like, I felt like it was like someone spoke it in my ear or something, and I was like, "Oh." I felt like that. This is the experience. Oh my God. And then I was like, I am not gonna tolerate the wandering mind anymore. That is it. And then something like it just felt like that. Like, well, I just feel like it's a really. When I read the line, I can't remember reading the line. Like when I actually read the course, I don't know where it is. It's in there somewhere. But like, it didn't impact me at that moment of reading. And maybe it repeats it. I don't know if it repeats it over and over. But anyway, it came back and it really had a really impact. And just now it's coming, and I feel like it's really very true that we're so tolerant of just our mind, and not just wandering, but just appearing at all. Like we give it like a lot of credibility, even when we've already recognized that, oh no, there's nothing of peace or of value in my mind, and it doesn't lead anywhere. But yet we still keep going back to it over and over again.
One of the things that's faded that I can, report with great joy is the tale of the unworthy one that we tell ourselves, or I tell myself, has faded quite a bit, actually. It's like it can't even get started before,
Yeah.
off you go. And then it just, that's been really, really, really good. Nothing like a little unconditional love to melt that guy. Yeah, it's like we're storytelling machines somehow.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's like as long as we keep being interested, it will keep appearing. As long as we have investment in it or belief that it has something to offer us. Like sometimes maybe we're giving up a lot of a lot of the stories that cause a lot of pain, but maybe we'll just keep it a little bit. We want to keep a little bit just in case. Maybe it's gonna offer us something wonderful, great idea for some kind of things I can do with my life. Or something, or who knows. It's like, but as long as we have some investment in it, it'll keep it there. But in a way, then, like, this is like opposite to what I said a minute ago. But in a way, like, time has relevance then, because I feel like time is good for that. It's good for it's time is good for that. At different times, it can show us, like, are you going to be interested in this type of story? And the more time that goes on, you know, it can test us, and then it's just like it's an opportunity over and over again to see, no, actually, no, I really don't want it, because it might be a certain story might appear, like maybe like you said, like unworthiness. So you've learned that that doesn't work. That's not talking about me. It's got nothing to do with me. So if that story of unworthiness appears, I'm not touching it. You know, that can happen, and it can feel like so liberating. And it's like you're just totally stepped into your power and your joy. But then we also have many other stories and other stories in our kind of, you could say, I don't know now if this is accurate, like the words, but we have many other stories in our unconscious, you know. So in a way, time can be good for all of those stories to surface. And the more that we spend time being alive, it's like it's kind of inviting everything that has been dark in us to come to the light. And then, but just like every time we can just say, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's not for me. Not for me. Not for me. And maybe sometimes, maybe it takes a little bit longer sometimes, because maybe it's like, oh, maybe we've kind of been believing something, but we haven't been conscious that we've been believing it. So like it might take a little while to say, no, thank you. But eventually we are saying no, thank you to everything, because we are the self, and we in that light, and as we stand as the light of ourselves, we see clearly and know that really mind and thought doesn't have anything to offer us. So time is good for that in a way. It's just like that we can be sure over and over and over and over and over again. And somehow it's joyful. It's joyful to say like no, and to just see it over and over again. Somehow it's joyful to be offered a lie in a way, and no. And then you can kind of feel joyful, like how could I even ever have believed? Like it kind of feels like you kind of know as a distant memory that like I have believed things, but like it kind of feels like really, like you can't even really remember it. Mm. So if time is good for something, let's say it's good for that. It's good as an opportunity just to see that all is the self. And also we don't really need time. Just like one just right now, isn't it? And that's all that's ever here. Is that same at the same time. Mhm.
I want to give myself credit for shutting up. No, so beautiful. So beautiful. Mm. Mm. I hear a little one calling in the background. Sometimes on Sunday satsang, there's a crow. And there might be 70 people, and Hanuman's the only one unmuted. And there'll be a crow in the tree outside his apartment. Caw, caw.
He wants to be part of it too.
Right. Mm. I feel myself starting to build an agenda for next time, so I'll just be attentive to that. Maybe I'll have an idea, maybe I won't.
It's all good, whatever happens.
Okay.
Oh yeah, thank you for being open to dropping your plan.
Oh,
It didn't offend you too much. Thank you.
I'll go give this love to others.
Thank you.
Okay, good.